I think what's most important in talking about hormones in women is to talk about estrogen, because that's the really important hormone that we know gives us quite a bit of health protection. Estrogen has a really central role in reproductive health, but it actually goes through every tissue in our body. And that's not actually what all things do. So we have something called a blood-brain barrier, which means very few molecules actually get through to the brain because it's so protected. Estrogen goes straight through. So it really is everywhere in our body. If you think about it as a reproductive hormone, it's designed for us to have children. But implicit in being able to have children is to have an optimised heart, an optimised brain, an optimised bone structure to carry the weight, optimised muscles. So estrogen actually has effects on all of those tissues. So around the perimenopause, estrogen declines dramatically into postmenopause, where actually it's only detectable with high sensitivity assays. Women who were protected from heart disease beforehand now get heart disease. Who didn't have osteoporosis beforehand are now getting osteoporosis. So a lot of the diseases that are associated with older ageing actually only occur after that estrogen loss. So before menopause, women have less heart disease than men, they have less bone problems than men, they have less strokes than men, and then after menopause, they have as many heart attacks as men, they have as many strokes. You know, a few hundred years ago, the mean age of death was 50. And the mean age of menopause is 50, so we didn't really see these diseases in women, so there just hasn't been any research. So actually, women tend to get worse heart disease than men. So if you look at immediate heart attacks, that's not as common in women, but having heart disease means you've got a disability in older age because you can't walk so far or you can't have as much exercise exertion. That's more common in women. In addition, 2/3 of all dementia is in women. And osteoporosis really is much more common in women because that lack of estrogen really does start to melt the bones. So that's why estrogen is so important. And certainly there's a lot of evidence that estrogen improves people's cognition. There's evidence in animal studies that estrogen increases the hippocampus, which is the memory centre. There's a lot of evidence that estrogen is protective, and they've even done some really tiny trials in people who have dementia and shown that estrogen has better performance in those people, but they're really small studies, so it's not something you'd want to, say as a treatment yet. The HRT preparations have changed dramatically over the last 20 years. So the initial study at the turn of the century was using conjugated equine estrogen. And this was actually taken from pregnant mares. And because it's from horses, humans actually had higher side effects of clotting with that preparation. And now we have much more modern preparations. And in fact, not just oral tablets, but there are now patches. And the patches in particular seem to have less side effects again than oral therapy. So things are evolving all the time. So often women have been thought to have really good health because women live longer. And we do live 3 to 4 years longer than men in this country. But what somehow has been missed with women now living 1/3 of their lives in postmenopause without estrogen, in fact, women have 3.7 times severe significant disability limiting activities of daily living than men of the same age. So, we want a healthy, happy, good quality of life in our ageing, not just 3 or 4 more years. So I think this is a new target we have to look at now that we have an ageing population, that it's not just about years, but having treatments that actually give you better quality of life.